Hello, everyone. We're going to make a small performance because Koen, that is my colleague from Belgium, and I'm based in Spain. They came together for a workshop. Then I think it's a very good opportunity to show you what are we doing around blockchain and new models around ReFi and ESG. Then we are going to make a sample one. Right? Right.
Yeah.
Go. Okay, the first joke. Who knows Fujitsu? Who knows? What's Fujitsu? What is the first word that comes in your mind when you say Fujitsu? Silence. Air conditioning. Not? Yeah. Not cameras. This is Fuji. It's another brand. Well, it's a typical joke. But in fact, we are the sixth technology company in the world. It's amazing. Well, come back. The first phrase is blockchain and ESG is much more than ReFi, right? You know all the terms here. It's very simple. Well, it's a typical trendy topic now. It's about impact. Much better now. Sorry. ESG is a new concept of investment about 3 points of impacts: environment, social, and governance. It's very simple, right? It's a typical 3P or 4P impact: people, profit, planet, profitable, prosperity. No, this is the words that we are using. Then the new models around ReFi is much more than ESG because we are using blockchain. And we are going to explain why blockchain must be the key infrastructure of data to explore these new business models, right? Well, this is me. If you want to join me in your network in LinkedIn, please go ahead. I'm in a competition with other mates, and then it's a good way to increase my followers. Sorry, because the presentation originally was in Spanish, and I'm going to translate in real time. This phrase is because we are on crisis right now. We're on crisis. Which crisis, by the way? Trust. We don't trust in anything. Yes or no? Are you sharing with me? Do you trust in government? Do you trust in money? Do you trust in your colleagues? Could be. Yeah, blockchainers, yes. Then blockchain is using this gap, right? We are attacking directly the trust. If we create a real trust, then we can create new models, new business models, and new opportunities. Hopefully it's working well. In fact, we have several centers of excellence. In Spain, we have quantum computing, IP, and cyber. Then it's a proposal that we can use for blockchain. We create a trust data infrastructure with blockchain, then we can use other technologies that are done comparison, getting much more value, right? But in fact, when you are creating proof of concepts, you know that I know that you are in a hackathon. You need to scale your proof of concepts and create pilots, right? But you need some key organizations, key stakeholders. For example, public organization, not only Spanish, I mean, worldwide. You need university as this. Sorry, I'm an industrial engineer. Then I feel some extreme, this is telecom engineer. But, well, it's another joke. Of course, innovation and startups. But of course, and this is the missing thing always, you need a huge or medium-sized companies as Fujitsu or others, because you need the trust of the clients, the huge clients, to scale the product, right? This is some of our reference. It's a matter of growing slow and try to explain that blockchain is much more than crypto. This is a critical thing because we are fighting against the black legend, let me see that, right? Especially with DeFi. I'm a believer of DeFi, but we need to grow up. Then, when we are talking about blockchain, it's about solving problems and real use cases. This is the matter. And that's why we are working with the SDGA, with ESG, because we are going to solve real problems of the companies, real problems of the investment groups, the venture capitals, right? Sorry, did you want to go ahead? Go. No. The matter here is, if you have trust data infrastructure, then you have the ability to make the best decisions, because the data is trust. This is the change that we're making now. This is the change in our minds, right? By now, we can believe in public data, for example. But as social people that we move, we can ask about trust data. This is the first step that we need to push to governments, right? I'm going to stop here. The difference between ESG, sustainability, and ReFi is pretty simple. ESG is focusing outside, right? Because you have three measures of impact, right? Sustainability is green IT. Let me say that, very simple. I use it for 10 years working in green IT and sustainability. But the thing is ReFi, because ReFi is using blockchain and DeFi. This is the matter. Then it's a converse of several technologies, of several new business models, and then you need to think in a different way. Kun is going to explain now, because we understand that if you detect the opportunity, then you can create a new business using trust, using blockchain, using DeFi, and this is I think is the right way. Well, some numbers I keep here. Some numbers about the ESG investment. Huge investment is coming. If your project is not touching ESG points, think about it, because so much money is coming, and all the investors, all the users want ESG concept applying the projects as users. It's so relevant. Well, it's very simple. Is why are we using blockchain? We are improving the process, we are reducing risk, and especially the last one, we are creating new native digital business models. Okay? But the thing is, don't use blockchain as, I don't know, the last part of the cake. Is otherwise. Is use blockchain because you are defending, you are attacking a problem, an issue that other technologies can solve. This is the change that you need to do, right? And then Kun is going to talk about two projects, botanical water and text tracer.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So like Marcus already said, ESG is about money. It's not about dancing around the tree and singing Kumbaya. It will be about access to capital, lower taxes, subsidies. You need to do well on the things that are measured and that have to be reported, because otherwise you will be punished, basically. So we are doing quite a few projects today. Enterprise blockchain, live, in production. So you see it exists. Blockchain projects that have an actual business case, that give people a paycheck, that have customers. It works even for companies and between companies, all regulated, no worries. I'm a master in law too, so we do take care of things going forward. Let's start with, well, I don't know which one goes first. First, botanical. So we do a lot of numbers apparently, but we have 6 platforms that are live. One of them is saving a lot of water, but I will jump into that just in a second. The other one has over 150 companies tracing the journey of textile on the blockchain. These companies are the 2 latest. One are Zeeman, which is a Dutch retail chain with probably the cheapest clothing you can ever find. And then the other one is Karl Lagerfeld, probably yacht. But they both have an interest in going there. So Botanical Water, it's an Australian company. They have technology that fits in a standard shipping container, which means it can be moved around. Just a container you can put on a truck and drive to another place. And it's plugged in production processes. These processes, they focus on evaporation of fluid, basically. If you make tomato juice from tomatoes or sugar from sugar beets, you need to get rid of a lot of humidity of fluid that is present naturally in these vegetables. So these processes, they push it out by heat or by pressure. And today, that water is wastewater. 3 trillion liter water worldwide, for which companies pay to get rid of, because it's waste. Now, that's really a lot. I mean, 3 trillion liter, that's 2 million Olympic swimming pools. If you have to count to 2 million, it takes about 6 weeks. So it's really an amazing amount of water that is thrown away. So they have this container, they plug it into a process, and they capture the water. And you might think, yeah, well, that's great, but what is blockchain going to do there? We built the exchange because the water cannot be held forever. You need liability there in place. When a contract is set up, you want to be sure that it's actually executed, or that at least some liabilities with the counterparty, that they do not say the day before they have to pick it up, we're not going to do it. Furthermore, if you compare 2 glasses of water, you will see a striking similarity between the 2 glasses. But this water is upcycled water. It went through a chemical process, so we have to know how it looks like. We have a digital twin of every water production run on chain. When somebody buys the water, it is fueled with data from these containers. They have over 150 sensors. We capture all the relevant data, and it's all put on chain as a digital twin of the water that you're buying. So you know exactly what you buy. We can guarantee that it's actually somebody at the other side of the contract to put his forth. We also have a fund underneath. So a percentage of every transaction is going into a fund with which we aim to support people in water-stressed regions. We're still looking a bit on how to distribute the money. You know that giving money to people is usually not the best way to help people to do the right things, especially if you give it to man and it goes to alcohol. So it's still something we have to figure out. We're also helping the company to build an STO, a security token offering, a fully regulated way to raise capital to build those containers, because they each cost about 1 million. So we need funds to do that. Yeah, and that's about it for Botanical Water. I think it's a great company. They have been on the UN Water Summit to show what they do, and now we're going to do a large project in India, where a large US tech company that I can't name, but well, there aren't that many Indians, is going to offset a bit of the water they spill in the US. They cooling their NVIDIA video cards for their AI offering. Good.
You can say about talk about credit the other.
Yeah, true. While making the water, there's also a water impact credit generated. So a company can buy this basically to offset their own water consumption. And the thing is with these water impact credits, they look a bit like carbon credits, but they're quite different in the end. If as a company you have carbon emissions, you can buy a credit from the other side of the world, and it's all fine. I mean, plant a tree and there you are. But the water is there. It's present. It has to be used locally. So depending on where the water is actually created, if you do this in Belgium, in the Netherlands, there is plenty of water. It has less value than when the water is actually created, upcycled in India, for example, or in Morocco, or any countries that have a water pressure, like California in the US, where the first project actually run. They upcycled water from a tomato production factory. It was put back to nature, so just pour it out again in the canals, because they're suffering from a huge drought over there. All right. Text Tracer, the second project. It's an older project than the Botanical Water one. I think we're now working with Text Tracer for 4 years. So what they saw was there is an issue with the claims textile companies make. It's easy to put on a poster, buy this t-shirt, save the world, organic cotton, no child labor included in this t-shirt. But then you ask, can you prove the statement? And then they're like, of course, no. Oh. No data to be found. Because it was on an Excel sheet, somebody deleted it, the guy who was supposed to update it was fired, the transport company was renamed, they know nothing, and then you can't prove these claims. That becomes an issue. And they thought, Xtracer, what if we put this data on chain the moment the data is generated? What if we go to the people collecting cotton and ask them to already provide evidence? And you probably also realize that people collecting cotton might not be literate or even speak English. So we just ask them to make a picture. And we take all the data we have around the picture and we put it on chain. And then the next step in the process, they will have to validate that the picture is actually, or most likely, it's not 110% sound true, comes from the previous partner. And that all the way along the value chain until at the end we get a QR code. That QR code contains a chain of custody of trusted data. Everything you need to evidence your claim is there. You just have to push the button, scan the QR code. You can buy these already in shops. And well, there you see the entire trace of the journey of the textile with some limitations. If it comes from China, there is no data. So we do our best. It's better than nothing, but it's there, it's live. We also add compliance track there because you need to ensure certain policies. You need Ökotech certification, whatever. Once you have mapped the supply chain, you can push these documents through the supply chain and sign them digitally. And the next step we do now is we start to collect ESG data that is related to each production run, how much electricity, how much water was used. So in the end, these companies will be able to produce the ESG reporting that is required as of 2025 with data of 2024. All on blockchain, all live, adding value to society through innovation. We repeat our strategy.
That's good. This final words is because this new area is growing so fast. Our suggestions is start educating, start studying, reviewing, reading these articles, these new concepts, because there is no capabilities, there is no talent yet. It's a very good opportunity for you to start working around this. Especially, you can follow us. It's so cheap. It's no cost to follow the people on LinkedIn, for example. It's a huge opportunity there. But the last part is the most important, I think. Try to make your own project, try to change your own mind and start working around this because it's now, this is the way. Many thanks.
Any questions?
I have one question about the interoperability. What do you think is, for me, is one of the most important needs right now for the mass adoption in the next years? What do you think about it and trends and what do you do?
Well, this is a very interesting question. From our side, we are working with private blockchain by now. And you say why? Because huge companies need trust. Sometimes they're very, very afraid about public or hybrid blockchain. But we need to go step by step. The ambitious, yeah. We need to work with public blockchain, but in some part, enterprise blockchain and private blockchain can accelerate the adoption of blockchain and the use cases. Interoperability, I think, it will come later. In some part with organization and ReFi.
The enterprise solutions we built use Hyperledger Fabric usually, which has all the tools to make it interoperable with legacy systems, with existing things in companies. And if you look beyond that, interoperability is really a challenge, but also an issue. Metaverses, because there is more than one, rely on interoperability, but it's not there yet. Or perhaps not there ever, because you also there see a huge centralization effort again. And if you look at cross-chain interoperability, it's a huge risk the bridges, that's where the hacks are happening. So it's a really nice concept to have, but it's something that on technical level still has to be hardened before it can become useful on a user level. And that's why with a private ledger, we can instill the trust that is required with interoperability with things that companies already know. And there is a manageable risk connected to it. No risk is always a risk, so it's manageable.
No, step by step.
Another question there?
Yes, I'm curious because I've not worked with a private blockchain before. I mean, one thing we like about the public ledger, another thing is that there's immutability, like once the data is published, you cannot change it. So how does a private blockchain manage this challenge? How can you assure all the stakeholders that once the data is published, you don't, there's not going to be changes by a particular party that could be like to make it change.
So fair and square, we start with 3 to 4 nodes in an enterprise system because that's sufficient to start with. And the aim is to decentralize further. Now, decentralization shouldn't be a purpose in itself. Immutability is often seen as something that connects with decentralization, but it is wrong. If you look at how the Bitcoin blockchain has forked along since 2009, then you can wonder where is the immutability. If you look back to the DAO hack, when people celebrate Ethereum, they're not celebrating Ethereum, they're celebrating Ethereum Classic. But that's not only the chain they use today. So apparently, the public blockchain is less immutable than we might think. And within the public blockchain, you have a probabilistic finality. It is most likely final the transactions you have, but it can always roll back. What the DAO hack proves, it can fork, and then you don't know where to go to. With the private systems we deploy, we have deterministic finality. We can make it absolutely sure that the data cannot be modified once it is stored on chain. So it is more a matter of having a node within a competitor. They don't have access to the data anyway, or with a school or a university or a public cloud provider, of course, but that's something somebody pays for, so you control it. But you just need to have a few nodes outside your own ecosystem to ensure that data cannot be changed. And in my opinion, it is way more final than public chains are today.
I think it's about 2%. That's another question. Well, I think now the challenge could be in the connection between on-chain and off-chain. I give you the question for you, like it's not a matter of decentralization. Sorry, it's a matter of connect all the data into the cluster. And this is the other one. But this is a real challenge now in the way to scale huge projects. Any more questions?
Public blockchain can have mutability, like say with the Ethereum Classic, that is not possible in blockchain, but it's happening. Like one person decide about the blockchain and the blockchain and change things on the blockchain in a public blockchain. So maybe it's not so different. The difference is who take the decision.
Well, I mean, in a public blockchain, you still need all the nodes to agree with the changes that are being executed. So it's one person who gave thought on how to roll back 2 weeks and then redo the transactions to get the funds back out of the DAO itself. But in the end, still the people who were mining back then had to vote for the right chain or had to choose the right chain. So it's still there, but if you do enterprise applications, the last thing you want to explain to a company is, well, you know, this ledger, we put the data on there and it can fork. But you know, then we have a unknown amount of people on which we can rely to make the right decision. I don't know if it's the right decision. That's why we use a private ledger, because we want to make sure that we control those decisions. If we do an upgrade to such a system, you do half the nodes, you see if it works, and then you transist the other half of the nodes, because you know who owns a node. If it's on a public blockchain, and you have seen that with Bitcoin when they had a small issue in 2018, when a bug was discovered in which you could as a user, make extra Bitcoin. Took them 2 years to fix it. And then they were like, please update your nodes. Please, everyone, update your nodes. I'm running 3. I don't even know which version they have. I hope they're right. Otherwise, I'll make a few Bitcoin this evening.
Sensitive data, I don't want public works and medical data.
Indeed. And then you end up with a hash of the medical data or the evidence of the data on chain, and everything else is off chain. And then it's like, yeah, well, now you need to have a 2-step validation because you have this data and you need to go back to the blockchain to see if this is original data or not. If it's not original, what then? What do you do then? Then you find you make up some medical data because, well, it's not original anyway, so who knows? But if we store data on chain, and then you need to go to private chain because you need to make sure nobody else can see it, but we can store actual data on chain. We do store things on chain because we know it's valid data, valuable data, and companies do not want to have discussions about it. Then it becomes the start of evidence. In a legal context, it's not full evidence because it's not recognized as such by the law. In a commercial context, it's sufficient to say, well, we have this technology that makes things immutable, and here we have the data that comes straight out of this ledger. You can validate it yourself if we give you access. And then you go forth. Also on the access, we use APIs, of course, but so does everyone who uses Ethereum. You all go through Infura. Nobody uses a blockchain. Almost nobody uses a blockchain directly. So also there on interoperability, it's all running through interoperability, and it's well, it's one of my pet peeves, alas, the private and the public chain. So I think public chain as an issue. If you want to shift money to the other side of the world, great. Remittance, amazing use case. Anything else on a public chain in an enterprise context? Debatable.